Hello, hello. Welcome back. I have one of my favorite people on the planet here. I'm actually in his house. And a Pops came. What up, Pops?
I'm here.
What's up, Tony?
Pops in the
Happy to
house.
be here.
Yep, Pops in the house. And I have Sanjay here. And you may have heard his intro inside the track. And I'm just so pumped for him and seeing how his music has evolved and how he's evolved. I sat in ceremony with him. I played at festivals and taught at festivals with him. And there's just been a lot of growth.
You brought us along for the ride.
Hell yeah.
Oregon Eclipse. Oh, what year was that? 2017, yeah.
That was the year I
amazing.
met you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was in San Diego on the solstice. And our friend Sheil, like you were playing with Hargo, Feather and Dot. And I was vending, and Sheil was like, "Oh, Hargo is moving to Joshua Tree too." And I was like, "Oh wow!" And then like a week later, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm playing Oregon Eclipse. Like, I wonder if Hargo and Sanjay would be down to DJ with me when I teach." And I was like, "Yo, you guys gotta come. This is an opportunity we can't pass."
That was amazing. Hargo and I flew out from LA, and one of us forgot the main hard drive. So we were at the airport trying to get, to the Eclipse, and we called our friend and we were like, upload this session. He had to go into my house, get the hard drive, upload it to Dropbox. We're downloading it. And
I never do this.
Yeah. And then by the time we got there, it was pitch black, because we got there at night.
Yeah.
We just had no idea what we were doing. And then I think we just slept in our car and we woke up in the morning and we rocked it. That was fun.
I just couldn't even sleep that night because the line was like going into the next county. And I had my class at like 10 a.m. Like we had the class at 10 and there's no service. So I had no idea where they were. And it was 8 a.m. and they still weren't there. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Like, this is like a huge thing. There's like, we're teaching to like 500, 600 people plus.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like by the grace of God, they came walking through and I was like, oh my gosh, we're here.
Yeah, we slept somewhere where you weren't even supposed to. We basically pulled our car up like to the festival, parked like 20 feet from the stage because we were like, we cannot miss this. So anyways,
It was glorious.
It was pretty epic. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was amazing because a lot of people, like we were the second like yoga class. So a lot of people weren't going to like 8 a.m., but they were like at ours and like people were outside. Like there was even no more space inside.
Oh yeah.
They're all around the outside, like in the sun, doing Kundalini yoga and like dancing to like Argo and Sanjay.
That was epic.
In a sound bath.
We did that, and then I remember I got back and then just went straight to Burning Man.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty good little stretch there. So it was fun.
A lot of people were going to Oregon Eclipse and then straight to the burn. And they were already tired out from the eclipse. It's like, dude, you're doing another like week, 10 days of the burn. Like, Godspeed, dude.
I was pumped. That was great, but yeah, that was fun. So
yeah, and then from that, like I feel like both of us have really seen or have been really stepping up and answering more of like true purpose and true mission.
Yeah.
And we're in a space right now where we're recognizing like there's no more room for playing small. And this is the time to really like take initiative and go there.
Well, I think just with what's happening in the world, it's kind of like we don't really have an option at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's just you have to find a way to be grounded and centered with all the chaos going on. So I think to do that, you kind of have to find something in yourself to get through that. I mean, everybody has been at home for a year.
I know, it's been a year now.
Yeah.
I think it's been a year since I've been in your house.
Probably, yeah.
With my pops.
That's
the last time I was here.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was right when I just came back from Bali because I had to rush back. And my dad closed the restaurant and came out here. And we came to visit. But I mean, I think there's a lot more of that reset, like even talking about festivals and starting off with that. We're all recognizing what's actually important and how we're choosing to show up and step up. And also like, how do we, like the community aspect has also been part of the test of all of this, you know what I mean? And so it's been really interesting because I think there's also been a lot of that spaciousness to tap into more of our gifts and our purpose. So like you've been so focused on music this year.
Yeah.
And like creating music that is truly intentional and truly like medicine, like interwoven.
Yeah.
Like it's like bleeds through it. That's
Thanks.
the way I see it. Yeah. And if you guys don't know, the intro of the track is actually Sanjay's track Died. I like was reaching out. I was like trying to find like new intro music because I was like so over my other one. And I hit him up and I was like, yo, do you have any like demos or whatever you're not using? He's like, dude, you should just use Died. And I'm like, hell yeah. And every time I send it to my editor, he's like, oh, the new intro track is so good. I was like, I know, it's my friend.
Thanks for all the support. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Like last year it was, I think for all of us, it was just a complete head fuck, for everybody. So I think but it ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened to me. As an artist, I think for a lot of artists as well. I mean, I think it was at first an adjustment of being like, okay, I can't play shows. I can't travel, and so I think once I got past that little mental barrier, it was more about, okay, like you said, there's like space to expand. When you're in a grounded space, you can do that. So I think that was like the silver lining around 2020. That
the sanity underneath all the chaos, really.
Yeah, you just have to go a little insane first, and then you push through.
That's like the definition of like transmutation and alchemy.
Yeah.
That is alchemy. It's like, how can you transform something, and like this is what you're presented, and how are you gonna like rise above your situation? And I've just been so running with like really recognizing that hawk perspective of like looking down and being aware of what's going on, and then being able to like swoop in to those open opportunities that are really coming through.
Well, I think a big part of that is just like it's awareness, and I think awareness is the key to like self-reflection. When you're aware of your own stuff, good, bad, or aware of what's going on around you, you're able to kind of take that, like you said, the alchemy of it, like transmuting it into something that's really, really beautiful, which I think that kind of goes back to transformation in a lot of people's journeys, whether that's in a ceremony through medicine, or if that's something that happens just in your life through hardship or through a challenging situation. So I think, I tried my best to do that last year.
Bitch, you're not trying. You've done a phenomenal job. I hate when people are like, I tried. I was like, give yourself credit.
Yeah.
You've been doing it. And
Thanks.
like I said, the past like 4 years I've known you, just witnessing your transformation. And I know you've been so devoted to like the true path, and like working a lot with not just like embarking on the medicine journey, but like really doing it like with integrity and like working with like true indigenous and really centered and devoted to preservation of these tribes and of these communities, which I think isn't talked about enough, because of course, like it's so beautiful that more and more people are ready to embark on the medicine path, or they have, but how many of them have actually like whitewashed these traditions, and how many of them have completely neglected, the preservation of these medicines, of these tribes, of these communities, and really are using their platforms to speak up and to bring more awareness and infusing their gifts, their talents, and their passion for that bigger purpose and that bigger mission and drive. And that's what I see of you, and it's just like really beautiful, and it's so incredible. So I'd love for you to like share with us more on like when you heard, because like when Dive came out, you created like this beautiful video, magical. It's all in the show notes if you haven't watched it yet, and you've been really devoted to like raising money to support the indigenous and to bring solar, and like really like being more conscious with your art and with your gifts and your talents to bring more not just sustainability but preservation.
Damn, you should do my PR. Anyways, Yeah, I feel pretty fortunate, like, of the people that I met that kind of got me to connecting with, like, some of these really amazing people from the indigenous, like, either from the jungle or from Mexico or from India, doesn't matter where, but they've just kind of really honored these traditions that they either come from or that they've studied.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was really cool how that whole thing came about in terms of, like, it came from me DJing at Bhakti Fest, which is like a spiritual festival, which I used to call the Cultural Appropriation Festival, because it was just super, it took me a minute. I think sometimes when, I'm Indian, but I grew up here. And so I'm first generation born here. So I have a huge part of me that's totally American.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up with an immigrant family, and there's a huge part of me that's also Indian. So I grew up in a town where, San Diego is like, it's not super mixed. We were one of the only Indian families that was there, maybe the only Indian family for like the first 5 or 10 years. But it was also a very spiritual place, because that's where Yogananda came from, or wrote his book, Autobiography of a Yogi,
Mm-hmm.
and has a whole, the meditation garden. So it was really interesting to grow up in a space where there was a lot of people studying yoga, which I knew that was like a part of my culture, but they looked nothing like me. And I was like, how they're teaching me about my culture, and they're teaching me stuff I actually didn't even know. So it was interesting in the sense that, like, at first, as you get older and like playing at Bhakti Fest, I mean, I saw a lot of things with the festival itself that I disagreed with in terms of how it was run. But, at first I was like, this is crazy. This is like, just walking by, Hari Om, like just hearing like things mispronounced, and just like, I had to get past actually judgment on my end. And I kind of realized, well, people are actually just trying to learn, understand, and seek. And that's what I was trying to do.
Mm.
So, there's obviously like a fine line when it gets, I guess in that appropriation area of things. But, I kind of went through a whole thing of like absorbing a lot of that at the festival while we were playing. And I'm like one of the 3 Indian people that are at a festival called Bhakti Fest, which it means devotion, in Sanskrit. So, Hindi. And so, it was cool though, because that's actually how I connected with my friend Una. She was out there helping her, one of her mentors, yoga teacher, film. And I met her, and she, we got to DJ, and then she was like, hey, do you want to meet some indigenous and sit in a ceremony? And so that kind of whole thing came about in that way. And then it kind of snowballed from there to where I ended up, working with the Huni Queen tribe. And I asked them to be in this music video because I wanted them to be in the video and create art with a purpose that has, intention is an energetic thing you put into the music, but then, turning that into like something that has purpose is really, really powerful. So it's what I'm trying to do now with
Stop trying, you are doing it.
That's what I'm doing now.
I keep calling them out.
Yeah,
that's what I tell my friends. I'm
it's
like,
good.
You're actively doing it, you're not trying.
So that's what I'm doing now, in terms of like this video. And we are trying to raise $25,000 for the Huni Queen. We are raising $25,000 for the Huni Queen, and to build solar in their village. And they're in Acre, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Una is a phenomenal actress. She's in Avatar, and she's been in Game of Thrones and a lot of other amazing things. And she did me a solid and was in the video. And so we shot it actually out here in Joshua Tree. Really beautifully done with my friends Nick and Brian from Blend. And yeah, so here we are a year and a half later. I was going to release it last year, and then I actually released it. And then 3 days later is when
everything shut down.
Yeah, everything shut down. So I pulled it, and I'm really grateful for that, because it gave me a year to really sink into my message, who I am. The world, the ethos of the world right now, just totally changed from where it was 2 years ago or a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great time to really like you said, getting that third person, that hawk perspective, to look at that and think like, about my intention and why I'm creating music and what it's for. And
or maybe more of the purple condor.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, the condor vision. So that's kind of the story behind that. So
I love that. Well, I think one of the things that we have to understand, especially with art, regardless if it's like business, like a program, music, some project, there is a divine time when things are to be really
absolutely
shared, because sometimes we can prematurely share it because we're so like eager and go. And then sometimes, I don't want to say it fails, but like it doesn't get as much of the movement or, it's the only word I can think of. And then you can like re-release it and it just like is really aligned in that sense. And I think that's something that we need to become more graceful ourselves, like when those things happen, and be more humbled by those experiences as well, because especially when it's something so intentional like that, like it will show up, it will be delivered, it will arrive at the right time. And that's where the faith and not just in the process, but the faith and believing in like the project that you're creating.
There's always a bigger plan unfolding that's beyond our awareness, especially when that could have happened and came through when like shit hit the fan.
For sure. I mean, I think it's like, you just stick to your vision of what you want. And I think things kind of just start to fall into place more and more. And, there's so many people that I've seen like that end up doing really well just because they stick around long enough. And so I feel like if you believe in what you're doing, I mean, I've written a lot of terrible music before I felt like I was like, okay, this is my sound, like this is me. I understand that may even change from now, but I feel like what that journey is like about you're connecting to your own authenticity. And
I was just, I mean, that's it. Like you can see what everyone else is doing. And if you still have a lot of like self-doubt or insecurity about like believing in your art, believing in your medicine, believing in your work, you're going to do what everyone else is doing because you're conditioned to believe like kind of like in a pack mentality of like, oh, I got to do what they're doing, obviously. But then is it actually integrous with you? And it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of experience in that way. And I think over time, the more you give yourself permission to do that deeper work, you give yourself permission to like go to the depths of your souls and not really bypass shit anymore.
Oh, I've seen some shit I did not want to see, but I had to.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But then you create more space for,
of course,
for what's actually here for you to be experienced, to be experienced. And I think that's sometimes what people forget, because we've grown up in a society that has been so like capitalistic, go, like really overrun and like just a shit show.
Yeah. And I think that's what this 2020 was about, was like getting people to slow down and find out what's important to them. And I mean, I have a lot of friends who definitely struggled, and I had a lot of friends that have actually been thriving since this happened. And I kind of noticed a lot of the people that are thriving, they've been pretty grounded for a while. They've been
really committed to their transformation for a while too.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Is a lot of people that are really committed, that it didn't really shake them. They kept their vibe high. Everybody has those moments of self-doubt. Like I had one today. You know what I mean? It's just like it happens all the time.
But I think it's important to say that too, because we've also grown up in a toxic, like the spiritual movement has had toxicity of its own, more than just cultural appropriation, but like good vibes only, love and light, and like keep your vibe high. But sometimes you have a shitty day And sometimes you need to give yourself permission to feel those emotions as well.
Well, yeah, I think a little bit of like that Instagram culture is like you have to wake up and feel amazing, and you always have to be at 100%. You need a peak performance coach. You need this, you need that. It's like, yeah, it's okay to just go through whatever you need to go through to get to where you want. But I think the key to that is actually just having clarity on what you want. And sometimes that takes a little while. It's not always easy. Before I called this record that I'm releasing that Dive is on, it's called Initiation. And it's because like I'm initiating myself. And like this process of making it, from releasing it to then having to pull it. I mean, the video, we filmed it at the end of 2019, so it's been a while. And, like it's tested me in a million different ways, so with like either people that have come and circled in and then circled left, or just my own, like the self-doubt aspect, or having to rethink, refocus my approach to things. And yeah, as all artists have done at any point, you do a lot of things on your own at first. So until you get to that point where you can actually build a team and have people help support you, because no one's doing this stuff on their own. It's like, that kind of goes back to another thing about community, that, you're driving the car in terms of your destiny, but you definitely need others there to support you and help you on that path.
I think that's so much more of the Aquarian age too. Like we grew up in a Piscean culture of like you got to do this by yourself, blah blah blah. But now that we're more in the Aquarian age of community, of collaboration, each of us bring different gifts and talents and unique perspectives and flares to it. And when we're coming together on a collective mission and vision, there's so much more power to it.
Oh yeah.
There's so much more to it. And I think it's just a really beautiful time. Like, yeah, you're talking about Instagram culture, but like, I know I've also met like so many of like incredible people from there. But like right now, as I'm recording this, I'm on a social media sabbatical for the whole month. Like I deleted the app off my phone. And I think it's also important to understand and be aware of when we need time. And I think that's part of the initiation in itself of like being in a more modern technological age, which has so many perks. I mean, you create like electronic music, so you get it, but there's also how do we find balance of like connecting with nature, with ourselves, with our community. And I mean, of course, it's been challenging because for the past year, we haven't been able to do that so much like in person. So we've been more reliant on our technology. We've been more reliant on, these phones and computers to connect. But I think it's also important on how do we start to, like navigate through the times we're living in and learn to acclimate while also having those better boundaries, so that we can continue to listen and tune in, and to hear where we don't have to be like on 24/7.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the best part about 2020. Like just going to wear sweats, chill, work from home. I mean, I think people have realized now, like you can, you can enjoy life. Like, again, it's made people slow down and just kind of reassess the things that are important to them. And if that's, to me, the biggest thing that came out of last year.
Yeah. And then with that, it's also like, especially as like growing up in America that is so busy and go. And then you see so many of these other cultures that tend to family time, tend to alone time, really have like paid time off and like pieces of things that for like the overall mental health of the collective as well. And I think that's not talked about enough. Like the only thing I'm really concerned about, like really, really concerned about, of course, more than just like the waste of like single-use plastics from everyone doing takeout and shit from like this whole shutdown. But I'm really concerned about like that isn't talked about is the mental health of the collective going through this. Some people lost jobs, some people lost their businesses, some people lost their homes, some people lost loved ones. Yeah. And them being home, them not being able to interact. And especially I'm extremely concerned also about like the children who haven't been at school. They need that interaction and that connection. And that's like, those are the things I'm most like aware of, and just like being like patient and choosing to use a platform to speak up more about mental health. Because I know with me, like I've had challenges with mental health my whole life. But I mean, I really haven't done much this year or even last year of like working with plant medicines and things like that as well. Because I feel that there's like a spiritual war going on. And so like, I don't want to open up my field to that space, because I think it can come in and like really hinder my mental health, even though plant medicines and journeys have been a huge proponent and tool that have helped me like overcome mental health. So I think there's also that awareness of like what's happening, and to make sure you don't escape as well.
Well, I think like you make a good point. I mean, there's plant medicine to me connects you to your essence. It lets you see a part of yourself that is really difficult to access without it. And that's why a lot of these cultures have used this for eons. You know, they've been working with these things, and they're masters of plants. And so I think as a result of that, like you get a glimpse, and then you're supposed to, in my opinion, you work with that in a non-ceremonial space, because you're not in ceremony more than you are. And so I think that's part of that integration. And, 2020 was, there's no ceremonies going on. So
that's not true. We did one, your birthday.
Oh yeah, at the beginning of the year.
The beginning of the year. And I would love to talk more about that, because that's like, we came to Sanjay's house. We did a peyote ceremony for his birthday. It was like 3 weeks before I was leaving for Bali. Yeah. And like right before everything shut down.
Yeah, it was wild.
And we did it in a teepee. We did it with indigenous, and like there is true preservation of that. And then when we were all integrating, you had so many of your friends, and it was like, it was a really well eclectic crew of people from like so many different races and places and so much. And just, I could tell that like a huge piece that was going to be coming up was like cultural appropriation. And because I was hearing so many of the stories of your friends talking about how tired they are of like the whitewashing of like Indian culture in the spiritual community. They were tired of like being treated differently. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. Like as a global citizen myself, who was very passionate, and if I were to get my master's, I'd get it in theology. Like I love learning about other cultures and listening to other people's stories. And I just knew like this is going to be an interesting year. Yeah.
I mean, that was actually a really powerful conversation at my birthday. I mean, Indian culture is probably, when I look at it, I'm like, it's probably the most appropriated culture in a lot of ways. But it's also a beautiful thing, because it's so, I don't think India ever really went on any massive wars and conquering other places, but they did with their culture. And it's that powerful that they did that. And it's that beautiful to see it. But, there is, again, for me, just because I see so much of it, I think it goes back to awareness and just people. You can study as much as you can from a book and, read every book on yoga or spirituality or any other religion and take that as your own and connect with it. But then there's a different element of actually connecting with people that are from that lineage, or that are from that, to kind of understand it and respect it more. It's just paying homage. It's like, for me, I love funk music, and I've studied it, and it actually goes all the way back to Africa, and a lot of those rhythms and that aspect that's in the music now. And so it's just kind of understanding. It's like a little bit more of an education, and I understand more of that from playing with people that also studied funk music, that grew up before my time, and that I was lucky enough to play with, and I learned from them, from elders, So I think one thing I realize is not everybody has access to that. So I feel really, and I feel fortunate that I have had access to meet some of these cultures and some of these people because it gives me a better perspective. But not everybody does. And I think that, it's going to be a topic of conversation for a while, how to get people to be more aware when they're, feeling connected. And that's amazing if you feel connected to another culture and you want to teach it and all that and you want to study it. But it'll be an ongoing
there's a
talk.
fine line on on how, because I've seen, especially like in the yoga world.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, I was like, there's Encinitas is like the yoga capital of one of the capitals where I'm
like the Om capital of the world is what they call
I was just
it.
like, I was like, people here, because we experienced like people, we were just different. So we were treated differently. And just in the sense that like, it was just, we grew up in a pretty much all white neighborhood, and so we were just different to all the other kids. But one thing I always observed, I was like, it's weird to me how you want to learn and do yoga, but you don't have any Indian friends. It was just kind of like, I always found that being like, kind of interesting, know, but again, everyone's got not everybody's aware of that or has access to that, but, it is interesting that yoga, Yogananda brought that to the United States and had his ashram in Encinitas, which was actually hippie colonies back in the day. And then as it just got more expensive, it got more gentrified. And so I always just found it ironic, it's like it's just a funny situation.
I did my teacher training, my Kundalini teacher training in Encinitas.
Oh, yeah.
Soul yoga.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And, I mean, I do love that space, but I could also feel a lot of the false light that has infiltrated that space as well. Of like the cultural appropriation and, and pieces like that. And so I think it is important to have more of these conversations and to bring more awareness, and to share more voices and stories, because I think that's the beautiful thing about ceremony is that you are sitting around like this campfire sharing stories, and that's how it was back when. That's so ancient in that sense. Is like you grew from storytelling. And so that's why I think those integration periods after ceremony are really important as well. And then there's people like living in Joshua Tree, like people just come here, spend like $400 a night at an Airbnb, eat psychedelics, go into the national park and come back. But how much integration is it? Right? How much are they actually paying reverence to the land? How much is there actually like communion with spirit and the land? Or are you just like tapping in,
Kind of just goes back to like the consumption culture type attitude. So yeah, it's good for me, I try to ask, the land, like where I live in Joshua Tree, it's, doing ceremony here. I remember one of the first ones we did it with these two elders that were 90 years old, and they just kept getting visions of so many natives that were murdered here and slaughtered. And they, Don Estulio, who's the Marakame who actually led the whole ceremony, he was just talking about how he was shifting this energy on here from a lot of these spirits that felt really, really upset about what had happened here over hundreds of years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that unless I'd had that experience. And ever since then, I do think about like the cultures that kind of came before and the people that have honored the land. So it is something important to do, and I think like it goes back to the same question is like, we can't expect everybody to just know what to do. It's like, I didn't know what to do for a while. So it's like,
and there's no shame to that.
Yeah. And I think there's no shame in it. And I mean, the appropriation part, I mean, like that's just going to be around for a little while, but all we can do on our end is like, for me, I'm just like, look, I'm going to create art where it's a mix. It's my perspective that I'm putting into something that can be presented to many people at a time. So hopefully that, which is, I think all of us have that ability to present our art, our expression, whatever that is in a way. And that can carry, those things one idea can change someone's life. So, I had one experience that made me more aware of something. So, I think like this new age that we're kind of coming into is about people putting that intention of what they want to see in the world into whatever they do. And, I think that is what's going to move humanity forward and kind of help heal some of these things that we're going through.
Well, like we're talking about like how things are happening for a reason. To me, that's another part of why I believe like festivals haven't happened is because it's been like such a capitalistic money like hungry thing that will cram more people on the land, more people on the land, more people on the land. People are consuming plant medicine, psychedelics, drugs, whatever, but like are they actually asking permission of the land?
Yeah, I mean that's huge.
You know what I mean? And that's I think like
I definitely haven't many times when I've eaten psychedelics. So I've been on that side.
Yeah. And so I think like this wrench that's been thrown on the path in a way has been the time out to remember, like we were saying in the beginning, like what's actually important. And when the time comes that things do open up again, where's the intention behind it?
Yeah.
Because I think it's a non-negotiable really with where we're going.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think anything in my life that I try to remind myself is that I'm doing it with intention. I think that's probably been one of the biggest things like on this path of, trying to find my voice as an artist, or finding my voice as an artist. And
I got him.
I'm a quick learner. So that whole thing is around intention. It's like, what do you want? What's the clarity, that to me is the biggest piece. If you can get a little bit of clarity and in terms of what you want, then you're able to put that intention in terms of like, I want to feel this way. I want my life to be like this, or if I'm going to take some psychedelics, and it doesn't even have to be, in my opinion, like a formal prayer. Like, you just slow down and think about what you want out of an experience. I mean, isn't that like, why wouldn't you do that? You don't even have to be spiritual to do that. It's just like, I want to have an amazing time. Sometimes people, what I've seen, and I've been there too, which is where you do those things unconsciously.
Oh, that's how I had that difficult LSD trip.
Yeah.
I got in a fight and then I ate a tab. That was dumb. That was dumb.
Oh my God.
But it was such a blessing at that time. And I think that's the other thing too, is like.
Well, you got in a physical fight?
No, I got in like a verbal fight.
Sabrina,
yeah. I was like, I was Fight Club and shit. No, I got in a fight in a car because I wanted to like hide my drugs. And he wouldn't give it to me. So I was like, fine, I'm just going to eat it now. And I ate it. But there was like a little tiff before. And then I started seeing all the manipulation and mind control that was happening at Coachella. And then that like opened me up to my bigger purpose. And so I think even when things are challenging or things don't work out the way you want to, there are greater lessons and initiations in itself that can come out of it. And of course, it may take time to alchemize and may take time to transmute. But from those challenging experiences, you have the ability to recognize how strong you really are.
For sure.
And I think that's what we need to remember is like, yes, it's been a challenging year for some it's been phenomenal, but we're going to be able to look back at all this and see the amount of growth we've had in this 1 year. Like time is non-linear, but because there was such a, it was out of like the normalcy of like how things should flow, quote unquote. It was just a different experience for so many people because it was the unknown.
Yeah.
And it was so different. But it's been really beautiful to see how people are taking initiative, how people have more intention, how there is more of a drive to be part of the solution. And it's time for us to start infusing more of our gifts, more of our arts, more of our passions to be part of that solution if we want to continue to cultivate a sustainable future.
Yeah, I saw so many people starting small businesses during
Uranus and Taurus, man. This is like now until like 2026. This is like the energy for sure.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people like just follow their passions and have hobbies that they're turning into businesses. I have a friend, she got into tie dyeing and just killing it. She's just like, she quit. She lost her job, but she's making more than she did when she had her job.
Incredible.
And she's able to have way more freedom. And so, yeah, I think that where we're going is definitely that space where people are going to ask themselves about what makes them happy, and kind of focus their life more on those things that
bring joy.
Yeah.
Because that's what this life is about. And you have the ability to be enjoy for yourself and be joyous for the outcome of how it's impacting others as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the driving force. So to wrap up this conversation, I want to ask some lightning round questions for you.
Lightning round, let's do it.
What does sovereignty mean to you?
Sovereignty means to me, sovereignty means like standing in your power with truth.
What would you say to younger Sanjay?
Wow, that's a really good question. I would say keep going. I would say be more gentle with yourself and keep going.
I already know this answer, but I want to share it. Animal totem that's been guiding you.
The condor.
Duh.
For sure, yeah.
Amazing. And what is your greater intention with your music and your art?
Greater intention is kind of basically what we're saying, is to help humanity or people through my art to be able to discover the power that's within them. And if it can awaken 1% of that, that's amazing. So, and to have people just enjoy themselves when they're listening to my music, and to have it be something like what music served as something for me, it was very cathartic. And so if I can, help with that in terms of someone's process, then mission accomplished. And, if they're having fun in the meantime, even better.
Amazing. What would you say was the concert that revolutionized your life, or the show that you saw?
There's a lot, but I would say seeing Prince I saw him in high school, and actually I saw him in 1990. No, wait, sorry, I'm thinking back here. I saw him in 2003, and it definitely just completely changed me forever. So
I love that. And where can we find more of you and your music?
You can follow me at Sanjay, 2_, or on Spotify, Sanjay, Apple Music. So yeah.
Amazing. And what last little nugget of wisdom would you want to share?
Last nugget of wisdom. I would say be authentic, I heard that so much, and it never made sense when people would say that. But I think what I found out it means is to just follow your excitement. Follow the things that get you excited.
I love
and
that.
Go in that direction, because then you'll always feel really, really stoked on whatever you're doing, and really, really happy with whatever you're doing. So follow, if there's when I'm writing something, if I love it, if I'm excited about it, I'm moving around the room and dancing, it's a go. If it feels like it's not that, then why? Yeah, so that's my...
And if you want to support his project that he's doing...
Yeah, that's right. We are raising $25,000 for the Huni Queen, who are in the music video that Sabrina is going to put a link to help them build solar. There's the fundraiser is going to be up for a couple months, so you can check that out on my website, www.sanjay.art. A-R-T.
I love it. It's so beautiful, and I'm just so grateful that of the
thank
work
you.
you're doing.
Yeah, you've been such an awesome support throughout this whole journey, and it's been awesome watching you grow your business and everything that you're doing. And so, it's cool. It feels really aligned, and I'm finally glad that I got to do this with you.